At some point, the work will speak louder than you ever could. Not today, not this month, but it will. And when it does, remember this moment, the one where you chose to begin.
Rule number 1. Freedom doesn't look like addiction. You say you want freedom, but you wake up to price alerts. Before coffee, before water, before breath, you reach for your phone like it's a lifeline. But it's not saving you. It's dragging you deeper. Every candle feels important. Every wick feels like a message. Every chart is a slot machine. You say you're in control, but you're just being fed. Fed by noise. Fed by novelty. Fed by dopamine dressed up as discipline. You check BTC before brushing your teeth. You scroll through new coins while your child talks to you from the next room. You say you're trading, but you're chasing. You're not managing money. You're managing urges. You can't sit still for a day without checking the screen. That's not strategy. That's panic in disguise. And you cover it well. You call it research. You call it being in tune with the market. But deep down, you're just afraid of missing something, of being late, of not being in. You're not building freedom. You're building dependence. Real freedom doesn't vibrate in your pocket every 15 minutes. It doesn't scream at you in red and green. It doesn't demand your attention 87 times a day. It sits quietly. It waits. It knows the market will still be there tomorrow. But you treat every move like a lifeboat, like this next candle might finally make you feel in control. It won't. Not until you silence the noise. Not until you can ignore a pump without twitching. Not until your time is yours again. You pretend to trade, but you're really hunting emotion, and it's always just out of reach. You stare at the charts, not because you see something, but because you can't stand being with your own thoughts. And somewhere deep down, you know this isn't power. It's the opposite, because power doesn't look desperate. Power doesn't need to know what ETH is doing at 3:17 a.m. Power sleeps. But you scroll. You hunt. You twitch. Freedom isn't found in constant reaction. It's found in the ability to walk away. Without fear, without FOMO, without regret. Until you can do that, you're not free. You're owned. And the owner is everything you can't stop checking. You don't chase because it's smart. You chase because you're scared. Scared of missing. Scared of being wrong. Scared that everyone else will eat while you sit at the table with an empty plate. So you enter. Not because it's clean. Not because it's planned. But because it moved. Because someone posted it. Because Twitter screamed it. Because the candle looked like it might become something. That's not analysis. That's panic dressed up in urgency. The truth? You didn't have a setup. You had a feeling. A spike. A tug. And you told yourself, I can't let this one run without me. But why? Why does it hurt so much to let a move go? Because you tie your worth to being first. To being early. To being right. And if you're not right, at least you're fast. That's the logic. That's the lie. You tell yourself that real traders react fast. But fast is not strategic. Fast is fragile. You enter late. You exit worse. And you call it learning. But you're not learning. You're looping. Because the lesson never lands. Not as long as the rush feels better than the review. Not as long as the fear of missing out is louder than the voice of patience. That voice is still there. Buried. Tired. But it's there. And it's whispering. Sit this one out. Wait for confirmation. Your setup will come. But you mute it. Again. Because the chart is green. Because it's moving. Because someone on YouTube called it the one. So you buy. And 5 minutes later, you start to doubt. You zoom in. You zoom out. You lower your stop. You question everything. You tell yourself, just a little pullback. Just temporary volatility. But deep down, you didn't take a trade. You took a gamble. And the house always wins. Not because it's smarter, but because it waits. It waits for you to get emotional. It waits for you to panic. It waits for you to lie to yourself. You want to be in something, but you're never really in control. And the only reason you keep losing is because you keep rushing to be in something, instead of preparing to be in the right thing. Rule number 2, you don't chase because it's smart, you chase because you're scared. You don't chase because it's smart. You chase because you're scared. Scared of missing. Scared of being wrong. Scared that everyone else will eat while you sit at the table with an empty plate. So you enter. Not because it's clean. Not because it's planned. But because it moved. Because someone posted it. Because Twitter screamed it. Because the candle looked like it might become something. That's not analysis. That's panic dressed up in urgency. The truth? You didn't have a setup. You had a feeling. A spike. A tug. And you told yourself, I can't let this one run without me. But why? Why does it hurt so much to let a move go? Because you tie your worth to being first. To being early. To being right. And if you're not right, at least you're fast. That's the logic. That's the lie. You tell yourself that real traders react fast. But fast is not strategic. Fast is fragile. You enter late. You exit worse. And you call it learning. But you're not learning. You're looping. Because the lesson never lands. Not as long as the rush feels better than the review. Not as long as the fear of missing out is louder than the voice of patience. That voice is still there. Buried. Tired. But it's there. And it's whispering. Sit this one out. Wait for confirmation. Your setup will come. But you mute it. Again. Because the chart is green. Because it's moving. Because someone on YouTube called it the one. So you buy. And 5 minutes later, you start to doubt. You zoom in. You zoom out. You lower your stop. You question everything. You tell yourself, just a little pullback. Just temporary volatility. But deep down, you know, you didn't take a trade. You took a gamble. And the house always wins. Not because it's smarter, but because it waits. It waits for you to get emotional. It waits for you to panic. It waits for you to lie to yourself. You want to be in something, but you're never really in control. And the only reason you keep losing is because you keep rushing to be in something, instead of preparing to be in the right thing. You don't need to be first. You need to be right. And right doesn't mean lucky. It means prepared. It means waiting. It means planning. It means sitting in front of the chart and doing absolutely nothing, because nothing is there. And that's the part nobody talks about. They show you the entries, the exits, the wins, but they never show you the waiting. The days where nothing makes sense. The days where you close the laptop. Because you know that forcing it is worse than missing it. That's when you shift from hunter to sniper. Because a sniper doesn't run through the battlefield screaming now. He finds his range, his breathing, his target, and then stillness until the moment is real. You stop chasing. You start watching. You stop reacting. You start preparing. And suddenly, everything changes. You're no longer scrambling to be in something. You're letting the setups come to you. You don't trade because you're anxious. You trade because the system says it's time. And if it doesn't say it, you wait. No FOMO. No twitch. No noise. Just focus. And that focus becomes your edge. You stop comparing yourself to Twitter accounts. You stop needing the green screenshot. You stop proving anything to anyone. You stop proving anything to yourself. Because you already know who you are. You're the one who passed on 5 trades in a row. And didn't flinch. You're the one who waited an entire session. Then took one perfect entry and walked away. You're the one who made the plan, followed the plan, and let the market come to you. And that's how you kill FOMO. Not with more action. Not with more alerts. But with silence. Stillness. Certainty. You earn it in the hours no one sees. You earn it by skipping the chaos. And trusting your system. More than your impulse. And eventually, your old self tries to come back. Says, just enter. Just feel something. But now, you smile. And you wait. Rule number 3. You don't need an audience. You need a process. You think you want results. But what you really want is recognition. You say you're building a system. But you're building a story. One where you're the genius. The underdog. The one who saw it early. You enter a trade. And already imagine the screenshot. Already hear yourself explaining it. Already see the likes, the retweets, the praise. But that's not trading. That's theater. And the market doesn't care for actors. You post your win. You hide your loss. You curate the narrative. Still holding. Just took partials. No emotions involved. But your hands are shaking. Your stomach turns when it goes red. You tell yourself it's fine. You tell your audience nothing. Because deep down, you're not trading the market. You're trading their approval. Every move needs a reaction. Every win needs an audience. Every trade becomes performance. And suddenly, it's not about execution. It's about validation. That dopamine, it doesn't come from green. It comes from being seen. And that's where it all breaks. Because now, you're not following your system. You're following your followers. You hesitate, wondering what they'll think. You close early, afraid of posting a red. You hold longer because someone commented diamond hands. And without realizing it, you've outsourced your edge to strangers with usernames. You let their noise replace your clarity. You let their expectations override your process. And for what? A few likes. A little applause. The illusion that you're building something? Because you're not. You're feeding a shadow version of yourself. One that looks confident, but can't trade alone in silence. You stop building your edge the moment you started needing it to be admired. And you wonder why your trades feel off. Why your wins don't feel clean. Why your losses feel personal. It's because you made trading about identity. Not discipline. You made it about being known. Not being consistent. And until you kill that need to be seen, you'll never see what's actually happening on the chart. Not clearly. Not objectively. Because your ego is always in the way. Wanting to be right. Louder than it wants to be profitable. There's a moment when it clicks. When you realize, no one's watching as closely as you think. No one cares if you took the perfect entry. No one's tracking your win rate. No one remembers your screenshot from last week. And once that truth lands, you're free. You stop trading for applause. You stop needing to be seen. You stop performing. Because real trading doesn't need an audience. It needs a system. A reason. A repeatable process. That's when everything shifts. You delete the Telegram group. You mute the Discord. You stop refreshing comments to see who noticed. You take the trade. You log the trade. And you move on. Not because it wasn't important, but because it was just one of many. Now your edge isn't your opinion. It's your behavior. Now your power isn't in being right. It's in being consistent. You stop telling stories. You start telling the truth. You start to love silence more than praise. You value solitude over spotlight. And the work gets quieter, but stronger. No more forcing trades for content. No more chasing setups to impress. No more pretending that almost was part of the plan. You stop trading for identity. You trade for outcome. Not for Instagram. Not for Twitter. Not even for your journal. Just for the system. Just for the edge. You become dangerous again. Not because you're loud, but because you're calm. You're not chasing the next big move. You're mastering the boring one. And ironically, that's when your results improve. When you stop broadcasting and start focusing. When your best trades are the ones no one ever hears about. And the only validation you care about now is the one you give yourself. When you follow the plan, no matter what, that's when trading becomes real. That's when it's yours again. Rule number 4, you're not addicted to crypto. You're addicted to adrenaline. You say you love the game, but what you really love is the rush. That spike of action. That jolt of movement. That moment where your heart races and your brain shuts off. It's not crypto. It's not trading. It's the chemistry. It's the hit. You open 10 tabs. 3 Twitter feeds. 2 charts. 4 Discord threads. And none of it brings clarity. It just brings stimulation. Noise. Activity. Motion. You say you're looking for setups. But what you're really looking for is sensation. You chase volatility. You crave it. The calm chart. You skip it. The trending market. You ignore it. The clean setup. You call it boring. Because boring doesn't feed the addiction. You wait for the candle that explodes. The wick that spikes. The moment you can say, it's happening. But is it? Or are you just desperate to feel something? You enter not because it's smart, but because it's loud. You say you're in control. But it's the same move every time. Impulse. Entry. Regret. And even when it goes your way, you're already looking for the next one. Because one win doesn't satisfy. One profit isn't enough. You're not in it for the money. You're in it for the moment. That flash of chaos. That heartbeat of risk. That fantasy of flipping something overnight. You call it conviction. You call it grinding. But deep down it's addiction. Because you can't stop. You don't want to stop. And when the market is slow, you feel withdrawal. Like you're missing life. Like you're behind. Like something big is happening without you. That's not strategy. That's dependency. You're not here to build wealth. You're here to feel alive. But real traders, they don't need adrenaline. They need edge. They build systems, not spikes. They seek consistency, not chaos. They measure boredom, not motion. And until you admit this, until you admit that what you're craving isn't clarity, it's chaos, you'll keep lying to yourself, telling the world you're a trader, when you're really just chasing the next high. At some point, the chaos gets old. The spikes don't excite you. The noise doesn't move you. The rush starts to feel like a trick. You begin to ask, why do I need this to feel alive? And that question, that's the start. Because now you're not reacting. You're observing. You see it for what it is. You weren't building skills. You were chasing sensation. But now you want something different. Not faster. Not louder. Just real. You delete the hype channels. You mute the noise. You stop trading every tick like your life depends on it. You breathe. You pause. You take one chart. One setup. One trade. And you let it unfold. You feel the itch to jump in. But you sit still. You watch the candle form. You let the market speak. You stop trying to force movement, just so you can feel something. And slowly, the fog begins to clear. You realize that power isn't in the spike. It's in the stillness. The calm mind sees better. The steady hand survives longer. The trader who doesn't chase wins more. You let boring become beautiful. Because boring means repeatable. Boring means stable. Boring means you're not in emotional debt. You plan your entries. You log your exits. You stop caring about next big thing and start caring about next clean trade. And suddenly, the chart is just a chart, not a drug, not a thrill. You sit with it, read it, act when it's time. And if it's not time, you wait. No twitch, no pull, no panic, just presence. You start treating trading like a business, not a casino, not a shortcut, not a personal therapy session. And the longer you stay in that place, the more you realize you were never addicted to crypto. You were addicted to avoiding yourself. But now, you meet yourself in the silence. And for the first time, you actually feel in control. Rule number 5, it's not your system. It's your self-sabotage. You say your strategy doesn't work. You tweak the rules. You change the time frames. You rewrite the plan. Over and over. Again and again. But the real problem? You never followed it in the first place. You say the system's broken, but you never gave it a chance. Because right when it mattered, you panicked. You skipped the entry. You moved the stop. You closed early. And now, you're blaming the blueprint for a house you never finished building. You say, I need something more precise. But you had precise. You just didn't have discipline. Because discipline is boring. It's uncomfortable. It doesn't give you that rush. So you change systems, like you change hoodies, hoping one of them will finally save you from yourself. But nothing works. If you don't work it, no setup will protect you from your own impatience. No indicator will compensate for a lack of self-control. You want to be consistent. Start by stopping the sabotage. Stop chasing perfection. Stop quitting after one loss. Stop calling it adaptation when it's just fear in disguise. You don't need a better system. You need a better relationship with discomfort. You need to follow the rules. When it's hard, when it's slow, when it's boring. Because that's where the real test is. Not when everything lines up, but when nothing does. And you stay flat anyway. That's edge. That's maturity. That's the version of you who actually trades. The one who doesn't flinch. The one who takes the loss and logs the data. The one who understands. It's not about how good the system is. It's about how long you can survive. Before you sabotage it, you keep saying the market's changing. But maybe it's just you, changing the rules, every time they start to work. And until you stop doing that, no strategy will save you. Because it's not your system. It's you. There's power in doing exactly what you said you would do. No improvising. No guessing. No panic buttons. Just the plan. You enter where you said you'd enter. You stop where you said you'd stop. You exit when it's time, and even when it's a loss. It feels clean, because the loss wasn't a mistake. It was part of the process. That's when the sabotage stops. Not because you got smarter, but because you got tired of lying to yourself. You start to realize, It's not about winning every trade. It's about becoming someone who follows through, someone who doesn't fold under pressure, someone who doesn't need to be perfect, to be consistent. You take the setup, you journal the outcome, you walk away. No revenge, no tweaks, no breakdown, just work. You start building a streak, not of wins, but of integrity, a streak of trades where you followed the system, win or lose. And that streak, it changes everything, because now you're not judging yourself by the result. You're judging yourself by the execution. You take pride in doing it right, not in being lucky, not in being early, just in being steady. You check the plan. You follow the plan. You trust the plan, even when it hurts, even when it's tempting to interfere, even when your brain screams, exit now. You don't. You hold the line, because you finally understand. The edge isn't the entry. It's the behavior. The real profit isn't in the trade. It's in who you become by honoring the system. You stop running from boredom. You stop needing every day to be the big one. You stop rewriting the rules mid-session. And when the trade is over, you log it, you learn from it, and you let it go. No ego, no drama, just clarity. And that clarity compounds. Every session, every week, every month, until one day you look back and realize the sabotage is gone. Not because you fought it, but because you stopped feeding it. Now you're not chasing results. You're becoming the kind of person who makes them inevitable. Rule number 6, it's not about being right. It's about staying alive. You want to be right so bad, you're willing to die for it. You hold through red candles, like they're personal attacks. You say, it'll bounce. You say, I've seen this pattern before. You say, they're just shaking out the weak hands. But the only one getting shaken is you. You want to be right more than you want to win. And that's why you keep losing. You take a bad entry, then fight the market like it owes you something. You stare at the screen, not to manage risk, but to hope. You start Googling bullish indicators. You watch influencers who confirm your bias. You ignore your stop, and you call it conviction. It's not conviction. It's ego, because the trade stopped making sense 10 minutes ago, but you can't let it go. You'd rather blow the account than admit the setup was wrong. And that's how accounts die. Not from a bad system, not from volatility, but from pride, because being right feels good. And closing a loss feels like failure. But here's the truth, survival is the win. You don't need to be right today. You need to be present tomorrow. You need to protect your ability to take the next clean setup. Because this game isn't about one perfect trade. It's about staying in the game. One more day. One more week. One more year. That's what builds equity. You don't get better by being stubborn. You get better by staying solvent. And sometimes, the smartest move is to take the loss and walk away with capital and clarity. You stop treating exits like defeat. You start treating them like strategy. You stop proving things to the market because the market doesn't care. It never did. You stop needing to be right. You start needing to last. And once that clicks, everything changes. Now you cut the loss fast. You protect the edge. You protect your energy. You choose survival over ego. You choose endurance over pride, because traders don't win by being right. They win by staying alive long enough to let the right trades find them. You stop fighting the market the moment you start respecting risk. Not just in theory, but in every click, every size, every stop. You look at your capital, not like a weapon, but like a shield. You realize your job isn't to conquer. It's to survive, and real survival isn't passive. It's calculated. It's precise. It's ruthless. You don't just take entries. You measure them, size them, earn them, and when the trade is wrong, you don't justify. You don't pray. You don't double down. You exit, because staying alive is more important than being right. Now you treat your capital like oxygen in space. Every loss costs air. Every bad trade closes the walls in. And that awareness, it sharpens you. You start moving like a sniper. You don't need 100 shots. You just need one clean one. You wait. You watch. You protect the setup until it's yours. And when it comes, you strike with precision, not emotion. You don't overstay. You don't over-leverage. You don't revenge. You take your profit. You log your exit. You prepare for the next. Because now you know, capital isn't just money. It's time. It's energy. It's opportunity. You stop burning it to prove a point. You start protecting it to stay in the game. You stop flexing big positions. You start flexing tight execution. And slowly, you realize the best traders aren't the loudest ones. They're the quiet ones who outlive everyone else. The ones who skip the drama, skip the noise, skip the need to be brilliant, and just show up. Day after day, trade after trade, process after process. That's how you win. Not in a day, but across decades. Because this game doesn't reward the bold. It rewards the ones who are still here when everyone else blew up trying to prove something. So you choose survival. Not because you're afraid, but because you're finally in control. Rule number 7. Your trading starts working the moment you stop rushing. You've spent months, maybe years, in a hurry. Rushing to learn everything. Rushing to catch the next move. Rushing to make it before you're ready. But rushing never built mastery. It just built fatigue. You jumped time frames, switched systems, forced trades, and all of it just to avoid sitting still. But then something shifts. You stop sprinting. You stop reacting. You let the market breathe. And you breathe with it. And suddenly, the setups look clearer. The rules feel lighter. The screen doesn't scream anymore. Because now, you're not chasing the market. You're reading it. You stop entering just to be in something. You enter when it's right. And you wait when it's not. That's when the real growth begins. You slow down. But everything moves faster. Progress, results, confidence. Because you're no longer wasting energy on trades you never should have taken. You stop needing 5 positions a day. You're happy with one good one a week. You stop measuring your performance in action and start measuring it in quality. You stop asking, how much can I make today? You start asking, how well can I execute today? And that switch, that's everything. Now your journal is clean. Your charts are focused. Your day has structure. You don't check 17 pairs. You check your plan. You don't react to every spike. You let the spike pass. And when the trade comes, you take it with calm hands. Not because you're desperate, but because you're ready. And readiness isn't fast. It's patient. It's practiced. It's the result of doing less, but doing it right. You stop treating trading like a race. You start treating it like a craft. And once you do, the game slows down, but your results speed up. Because you're no longer trying to force the breakthrough. You've already become it. You used to think trading had to feel intense. Like every session needed fireworks. Like every candle needed action. Like every quiet hour meant you were falling behind. But now, you welcome the quiet. You open the chart, check your levels, and feel nothing. No rush. No pressure. No story. Just data. Just process. Just you. And that calm. That's the signal. Because now you're not trading your emotions. You're trading your edge. You enter not because it feels exciting, but because it fits the plan. You don't need the thrill. You need the alignment. You let the market move. And you move with it. Not faster. Not louder. Just in rhythm. And the rhythm isn't always obvious. It takes time to hear it. Time to trust it. But once you do, you stop fighting the chop. You stop forcing reversals. You stop needing to predict everything. You let go of the need to be first. You focus on being clear. You miss some moves. And it doesn't bother you. Because you know there's always another. Because you're no longer in a rush to get rich. You're just here to stay consistent. That consistency, it starts showing up everywhere. In your morning routine. In your meals. In your sleep. Your whole life slows down. But nothing feels slower. It all feels cleaner. More deliberate. More yours. You don't overanalyze. You don't jump systems. You stop searching for better. And start trusting what already works. You do less. But each move hits deeper. Each decision feels like it came from clarity. Not impulse. And even when it goes red, you feel proud of the execution. Because that's what you care about now. Not the dopamine. Not the P&L. But the craft. The clean execution. The stillness in motion. The calm before, during, and after the trade. That's your new fuel. And the moment that became enough? That's the moment you became a trader. Rule number 8. Discipline isn't a mood. It's a muscle. You're waiting to feel ready, to feel focused, to feel confident, to feel like trading today. But discipline doesn't care how you feel. It cares what you do. You think you need motivation, but what you really need is reps, daily, boring, uncomfortable reps, logging trades when you don't want to, following the plan when the setup looks weak, holding the stop when every part of you wants to move it. That's not vibes. That's training. Discipline isn't something you're born with. It's something you build. And right now, you might not have it, not because you're weak, but because you haven't practiced. You're still operating on emotion, still letting the day decide how you behave, still letting the market set your mood. But what if you didn't? What if you trained like an athlete? What if you made trading a practice, not a reaction? You'd wake up and run your routine. Even when you don't feel sharp, you'd scan the charts. Even when nothing looks sexy, you'd journal your losses, instead of pretending they didn't happen. And over time, you'd start to notice the change. Not all at once, but gradually. You'd hesitate less. You'd click with intent. You'd trade even when it's uncomfortable. And you'd be okay with that, because you'd stop needing discipline to feel good. You'd start using discipline to become good. It's not about mood anymore. It's about movement. It's about showing up, especially on the days where you feel like doing anything but. That's the work. And if you skip those reps, you'll always be chasing consistency you haven't earned yet. Because the trader you want to become, they're not more talented. They're just better trained. They built the muscle when no one was watching, when it was boring, when it was brutal. And if you want what they have, you'll have to train the same way. Not once. Not when you feel like it, but every day, especially when you don't. You don't need to become a robot. You just need to become consistent. Consistent in the way you show up, in the way you prepare, in the way you execute, even when you don't feel like it. Because feelings are fog. They shift. They lie. But your process, it can be solid. If you build it that way, imagine this: you wake up, not checking the chart first thing, but checking yourself. You run the same routine, review the same levels, journal the same way, regardless of mood, P&L, or weather. You don't trade because you feel lucky. You trade because the plan is active, because the criteria are there. You don't need fireworks. You don't need adrenaline. You just need a clean signal and a steady hand. And when that day comes, you'd be ready, not because of inspiration, but because of preparation. You don't flinch when price spikes. You don't celebrate every green candle. You act the same way on your best day as you do on your worst. Because discipline isn't performance. It's identity. It's the choice you make, over and over and over, until it becomes automatic. Not perfect, not bulletproof, but practiced. And if you break the plan, you don't spiral. You review. You reflect. You return. No drama. No guilt. Just the next rep, because that's what this is. Representatives, not results. The equity comes later. But the structure, the composure, that's built now. And if you keep showing up, you'd see it. How your decisions get sharper. Your losses get smaller. Your focus lasts longer. Not because the market changed, but because you did. Because you stopped waiting to feel ready and started acting ready. And that shift, that's the difference between hoping you'll improve and becoming the kind of trader who always does. Rule number 9. Most people trade to escape life. You trade to build one. Be honest. How many times have you opened the chart, not to follow a plan, but to run from something? From boredom, from stress, from a conversation you didn't want to have. You call it focus, but it's distraction. You're not always trading for profit. Sometimes you're trading to feel in control, because life feels messy, chaotic, heavy. But the market, it gives you a mission, a reason to stare at the screen, a sense that you're doing something, even if you're just watching candles dance. You sit there, convincing yourself it's productive, when really it's avoidance. You're trading not to grow, but to disappear. And that's dangerous, because the moment the market becomes your only outlet, you stop making good decisions. You start forcing trades just to feel something. You start risking money just to fill time. You treat the screen like shelter, instead of a tool. But what if that changed? What if trading wasn't your escape, but your foundation? What if you used it not to hide from life, but to build one that actually feels like yours. A life with structure, with discipline, with freedom that's earned, not fantasized. You'd stop needing the chart 24/7. You'd stop reacting to every spike like it's urgent. You'd close the screen when there's nothing to do and go live like someone who actually has a life. Because you do. And trading? It's not a trap. It's not your identity. It's a skill, one you use to fund the real mission. Being present, being stable, being free. But freedom doesn't come from staring at charts all day. It comes from learning how to walk away from them. With peace, with confidence, with something worth walking toward. So you can trade with clarity. Because your life isn't chaos. Your mind isn't desperate. Your worth isn't tied to today's result. You're not escaping anything anymore. You're building something. And the trades, they just help you do it better. Imagine this. You trade in the morning. You close the laptop when the session ends. And you don't check the chart again until tomorrow. No guilt. No fear. No FOMO. Just peace. Because your life doesn't orbit around the market anymore. The market is just one part of your orbit. You move through the day with structure. Meals, movement, deep work. Not glued to the screen, but grounded in rhythm. You build your life with the same precision you once gave to every candle. Because now, you're not just trading price. You're trading time. You're trading attention. You're trading energy. And you finally understand how valuable those really are. You're not full-time trader, 24/7 chart watcher. You're a builder of wealth, of space, of freedom. You don't wake up anxious to check the market. You wake up anchored in your routine. And when you do sit down to trade, you do it clean, with purpose, with boundaries. You don't overtrade. You don't revenge. You don't drift. Because your trading has a job. And it knows its place. It's not your identity. It's not your therapist. It's not your savior. It's just a skill, a tool, a lever, one that supports the rest of your life, not replaces it. You stop trading because you're stressed. You start trading because you're ready. You stop checking charts during dinner. You stop bringing your laptop to bed. You stop tying your mood to your P&L. Because your day isn't measured in candles anymore. It's measured in presence, in progress, in the quality of how you live. And that version of you, they're calmer, stronger, more deliberate. They know when to enter, when to exit, and most importantly, when to walk away. Because now you're not escaping anything. You're designing everything. And trading, it's just one part of the blueprint. A powerful part, but not the whole house. Rule number 10. This isn't about mastering the market. It's about mastering yourself. The market doesn't care who you are. It doesn't care about your dreams, your rent, your effort. It just moves. And the only thing that decides whether you survive is how well you manage your emotions, your patterns, your impulses. You keep thinking the edge is out there. In some strategy, some indicator, some perfect entry. But it's not. It's in how you breathe. When price goes against you. It's in how you wait. When nothing's clear. It's in how you respond. When the plan breaks down. You think mastering trading means knowing more. But it actually means needing less. Less drama. Less noise. Less proving. The real traders, they don't win because they're brilliant. They win because they're stable. They trust their system. And trust themselves to follow it. They don't chase. They don't flinch. They don't need the market to validate them. Because they've already done the hard part. They've looked in the mirror. And they've cleaned it up. The fear. The greed. The shame. The chaos. Gone. Not overnight. Not perfectly. But day by day. They replaced reaction with reason. And that work. That's what you're avoiding. You're trying to outsmart the chart. So you don't have to outgrow yourself. But the market sees everything. Every shortcut. Every lie. Every emotion you try to hide behind setups. It exposes it all. Because trading isn't just numbers. It's a mirror. And the better you know yourself, the better you can see what's coming. Not because the chart told you, but because you weren't in the way. You want real progress? Start inside. Because this game, it never required you to be perfect. Only honest. You won't master the market, but you can master the part of you that keeps getting in the way. The doubt, the ego, the The need to be right. You can learn to breathe when things go red. You can learn to wait when it's not your day. You can learn to walk away without feeling like you failed, because mastery isn't loud. It's quiet, predictable, unimpressive to anyone but you. You won't get applause for skipping a bad trade. You won't go viral for staying flat. You won't be celebrated for doing nothing, when nothing made sense. But that's the point. You're not here to perform. You're here to execute, to stay sharp when others chase, to stay calm when others spiral, to stay present when your brain wants to run. That's the real edge, not the candle pattern, not the risk ratio, not the entry hack. Just you, focused, disciplined, undistracted. And if you can build that, you don't need to force anything. The setups come. The clarity follows. The results compound. Not overnight. Not always clean. But steadily. Because you're no longer sabotaging the process. You're part of it. You're aligned with it. And that alignment, that's what gives you power. Not because you're in control of the market, but because you're finally in control of you. And when you are, you stop asking, when will I win? You start asking, how long can I last? You stop needing to be early. You stop fearing every red. You stop tying your identity to the last trade you took, because you've already won something deeper. Not a number, not a screenshot, but self-respect, the kind that can't be shaken by a loss, the kind that doesn't need to be posted, the kind that stays with you long after the session ends. This isn't about being better than the market. It's about becoming better than you were yesterday. And if that's all you ever do, that's enough. That's mastery.
If this cut through the noise, don't like, don't clap, don't comment, just return. When the silence gets loud again, we'll be here, sharpened, ready.